thank you so much for keeping it locked to Breakfast Central. Now it's time for us to get into a very important conversation, as today is the internationally recognized day for zero tolerance on female genital mutilation. The World Health Organization describes female genital mutilation as any procedure that intentionally alters or causes injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons due to cultural, religious, or social practices. Now, this is commonly practiced in several developing countries across Africa and Asia predominantly, and according to WHO, has no health benefits for girls and women, hence the renewed global campaign to ban the act and to change the erroneous belief that it helps to prevent female promiscuity. Now, the war on female genital mutilation must continue until it is completely eradicated. Now, to give deeper insight into this subject matter, I'm really excited to be joined by Dr. Blossom, who is representing the Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria. Good morning, Dr. Blossom.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm really glad that we can have somebody of your stature come in and lend a voice and expertise, or should I say expert insight, into such a massive topic. And you know what, I just want to start by saying, how is it possible that this is still a reality in 2020?
It's something that everybody asks all the time. How is this still happening? It's really in understanding the thinking behind the communities that carry out this practice. So one of the ways that we have achieved some success has been in going into these communities, having some kind of dialogue, understanding their way of thinking. Sometimes it's just, they'll just tell you, oh, it's just the social norm. This is just what we've done for centuries. And you ask, so how did the practice start? And some of them can't even tell you. So it's with time, with dialogue. So you find the entry points to these communities and then the influential leaders. Sometimes it's the grandmothers, sometimes it's the head of the women. You'll just be surprised at who is really influential. So you need to target whoever is influential in these communities, and then you work very slowly.
But you
know exactly, because it's really, really delicate. And we have found that a lot of communities come out at the end of the process and publicly renounce the practice.
And you know what, kind of got me off of what you said is that, you're mentioning women, because I think there's also there's a belief that it's men pushing this agenda. Now, but when we say women, then we look at, the severe bleeding, problems urinating, possibility of cysts, infections, sometimes complications in childbirth, increased risk of newborn deaths. And I'm trying to understand how a woman who potentially may have experienced this or may understand the pain of this
will want to put their child through the same thing. So that's why we always have to come back to social conventions and social norms. So this is what we've always done. Remember when twins were killed? It was the way it was done, and nobody questioned it. So this is the same thing. Just imagine like a patient that I had. I'm going to call her AB, playing with her friends after she started seeing her period, maybe 12, 13, and a bunch of elders grab her, take her to the back of the house, and this stranger just performs this procedure. She bleeds for days. After some time, she starts to have fever. She has so many complications, and then she gets married. She becomes sexually active, and she cannot stand to have intercourse with her husband. Then she gets pregnant, goes on. During labor, she has prolonged labor. The baby doesn't cry immediately because of possibly birth trauma. So it's like it goes on.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a complete nightmare. So one of the things that we have found is that the more educated a woman is, the less likely she will be to put her daughter through that.
You know what, we're going to delve deeper into that, because I thought that experience was the best teacher.
Exactly.
You know, and as women, we understand some of the pains that we go through, but it doesn't seem to, you know, ring true with this conversation. So let's continue with the education, and I want to also get a little bit of information about maybe some of the statistics concerning, you know, what as an association of physicians, how many cases you know, in recent times, you know, have been attended to, or you know, or are they now also, you know, shrouded in secrecy, because many people do also know that this is a practice that is coming to an end very soon.
Yes. So exactly, one of the important things that the WHO has done has been to fund research on FGM, and we have found that in Nigeria alone, between the ages of 15 and 49, 1 out of 5 women has been caught.
Please just hold up.
Yes.
This is in 2020.
Yes, we're in 2020, and I'm giving you this
1
data.
in 5 women has undergone this.
Between the ages of 15 and 49.
So this doesn't, because once you say that, it means that this is not restricted to some remote rural area somewhere.
Because that's what people think.
Yes.
Like it's some remote area that no one ever even goes to. No, it's not.
So it's happening in cities as well.
So it's also, there's something called medicalization of FGM, which is a practice that we're trying to clamp down on. So because people say, oh, these practices, it's done in unsanitary conditions, people get infections, so now they take it to healthcare professionals.
Okay, to counter the argument that it's unhealthy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So so just to add to what you're saying, these things are done in cities. It's not done in your backyard or some remote area.
And our healthcare, it's illegal, is it not?
Okay, so
what's the legislation?
Okay, so exactly. I am glad you asked. So there's a legislation. There's actually a national policy, revised national policy on female genital mutilation. However, implementation is completely, basically, there is no muscle behind the policy.
So it's almost like abortion.
So, exactly. So how many people have been prosecuted? So ask yourself. Do you understand?
Wow. Yeah.
How many people have been prosecuted? So no one has been prosecuted as of yet. So that tells you that it's on paper, but it's not being implemented.
So where to from here? Where do we go from here? And also, I know this sounds like, you know, a strange question, but I also want to understand what next for the 15 or 16-year-old who may have undergone this procedure. Obviously, it can't be reversed, but, you know, is there any other way to sort of mitigate some of the other side effects or consequences of the procedure being done? Okay,
so to get to this question immediately, so there are procedures that can be, so some of the procedures that are done are so extreme that they actually close. Yeah, they actually close
the whole genital area.
Yeah, and leave just a tiny opening for menstrual flow and for urination. So when they get to the point where they have to even start having intercourse, they have to go have another procedure to open it up. So that's one of the things that we do. It's ridiculous, trust me.
And I mean, how accessible is that? Because that also sounds like an expensive procedure, a risky procedure as well.
Exactly, it is. It is with its own complications, but there's nothing you can do. The opening is so tiny, she can't have intercourse, she can't give birth.
Which means she can't give birth.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
So back to your first question.
Yeah, what's next?
What next? So we found that the most effective solutions have been multi-sectoral. So you come from the international level, the WHO, UNICEF, they've done a few things. They've brought out papers, and then you come to the national level. Legislation, we have a question mark on that. But if you come to the local level, the communities, so if you have a strong community entry strategy, community participation, community mobilization, you actually get to the point where these communities are the ones actually fighting to stop the practice. So what we do is, at the end of the whole process, we have a whole big ceremony where all the leaders come out, the whole community comes out, and they all publicly denounce the practice. So actually, last year, over 300 communities publicly denounced the practice. And once it's denounced and renounced, the practice stops immediately.
Immediately.
Yes. So between 2011 and last year, the prevalence has dropped from 27% to about 18%.
Okay, and that's massive
but
in
0%
a year.
is our target.
Of course. And when do you think 0% will be achieved for Nigeria?
Okay, so for Nigeria, I mean, the WHO has given a target of 2030.
Which is a long way away.
Which is a long way away. And you know, every year 3.3 girls are still at risk of having this procedure done to them. So it's still a long way. But it's a road that we're currently on and a place that we're going to get to.
You know what I'm curious about? You know, because this practice is so deeply ingrained in culture, religion, you know, things that, especially in African societies, we're very protective and defensive
culture,
about, you know.
Exactly.
So I want to know, what are some of the things you think have, you know, contributed to the success of people accepting that, okay, actually this is wrong? Because there's so many other cultural practices that, you know, we will, you know, to put it sort of in modern day urban language, we'll die there. As in,
you can't touch. You cannot touch.
No,
no
never.
Way.
Exactly. But you know, what in your opinion the factors that are making communities realize that, you know what, okay, this part of our culture, maybe we missed it with this?
So one thing that has helped is testimonials. So like the patient I talked about, so we have these people go back to their communities and just tell their stories. There's nothing as powerful as a good story that comes from your heart.
True.
So we found that this has been very, very successful. Like if you're 11 and you're listening to this story, you're like, I don't want this to happen to me. And then, you know, the whole community is listening to the story at the same time. So this has been very, very successful. Another thing that has been very successful has been the promotion of education of women. So women, the more exposed they are, especially to multimedia, the more educated they are, the less likely they would want their daughters to go through that practice. So these are the things that have proven successful. But one of the things that we have to do anytime we approach a community, we need to understand the community. We need to understand why they do what they do, because every community tells you a different reason. Some community tells you, oh, it makes the girls more marriageable because the man would trust that she will be faithful and he will have a great sexual experience.
Wow.
Yes.
All that, you know, go through all that just for...
Exactly. For some communities, it's, oh, this is just a rite of passage for our girls. So it's like every community has their own reason.
It's almost like it's lost in translation.
Exactly.
From
like
the source.
We don't even know where it started. We don't know why we're doing it.
So we're just going to make it up as we go along.
So you have to understand why a particular community does what they do before you approach them, and then who are the influential leaders. You'll be surprised that if the influential leaders might not even be maybe the elected people. It could just be like the head of the market women or something. Yeah, so you need to study each community is completely different. You need to study each community before you go in.
And then for these 1 in 5 women, you know, is there rehabilitation available? Because I can only imagine what the psychological impact of this.
It's like post-traumatic,
right?
Yeah,
that you live with literally for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So I will actually have to say that we don't have strong structures in place to take care of such women, because like you said, it's still shrouded in mystery. No one wants to know that it's been done to them. So like that we don't have, I think the more we talk about it, then the more people are opening to tell their own stories, and then they can get help.
And, you know, lastly, before we go, what can ordinary citizens like myself do? Because, you know, I find that this topic fills me with rage.
I know.
And often it's not rage that resolves these kinds of issues. So how can we be a part of, you know, your movement and support your efforts and the global efforts to make sure that, you know, like you said, for me, it's two things. 0%. Then the second thing is also, if it's 1 in 5 women here in Nigeria, you know, how do we support our sisters who are fighting this very private battle? And you know, we may be none the wiser that there's 1 or 2 amongst us.
Exactly. So one thing you can do, you can use your voice. You have a solid platform. So use your voice, talk about it, educate yourself, talk to your friends. You just never know. Someone that you talk to might talk to someone else and talk to someone else, and then we amplify the message. So that's what we can do as individuals. Use your social media platforms and just educate people, and you could save 1 life, 2 lives. You just never know.
You just never know. And then, you know, rehabilitation or psychological support. You know, how can we also as citizens, you know, and lately there's a lot of campaigns around mental wellness and, you know, speak to someone, call someone. How do we communicate to potential women out there and say that it's okay if you've been through this? I'm a friend that you can confide in.
So I think one of the ways we can do that is the more we talk about it, then the more comfortable we are with the conversation.
The more we normalize it.
Exactly. So that it doesn't feel like, oh, this is some secret I'm hiding. Like, you understand that almost everyone has had this done to them. So I think having the conversation constantly, yes, today is the International Day for Zero Tolerance, but we don't have to stop the conversation after today. We have to keep talking about it and get to the point where it's normal. You can come out, share your challenges, and get help.
Well, Dr. Blossom, this has been very insightful. I look forward to catching up with you on the 6th of February, 2021, where I hope you'll be telling me that the percentage is now below 10%. Exactly. And, you know, you're doing such incredible work. We really appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you so much for having me.
To watch more videos just like this, make sure you subscribe right here. And, of course, check out more videos right here.